The right stock analysis tool can cut through the noise and point you to real opportunities. The wrong one just clutters your screen up. I tested TipRanks, TrendSpider, and Trade Ideas to see which one actually helps investors make smarter decisions, and the results may surprise you. But okay, let's actually just start from the beginning here. Before I made any final decisions on which of these best stock analysis tools to actually stick with, I did exactly what any serious trader should do, and I spent hours digging through the user feedback, the reviews, the comments, and that's all the good, the bad, everything in between. And with Trade Ideas, one user said that he signed up for the Trade Ideas test drive and couldn't access most of the features. He claimed he copied a few AI trades and still lost money too. And he even described the interface as like a clunky 90s website. So yeah, all of that, are fair concerns. Like I've run into a few outdated menus, I think, like myself, but I mean, in my case, it only took a few minutes to find where everything really lives. I also noticed that during the test drive phase, Trade Ideas clearly limits some of the more advanced scanners. But that's like on purpose, right? That's probably just so they don't give away the full thing for peanuts. You know what's there and you know what you get access to if you pay more outside of the trial. The biggest red flag would have been the loss on AI trades, but you can't like trust AI for everything, and I've seen losses on AI trades before. If you blindly copy every signal without filtering for liquidity or sector strength, losing trades is almost guaranteed. So while his experience is valid, I personally think it's like a rare case of someone using the feeds without context. And on the flip side, a bunch of users have had amazing results using Trade Ideas. One guy wrote that he's used it for 20 years and still considers it the best thing out there. Another investor said that he loves the huge variety of filters and alerts and even praised the customer service there. After spending countless hours on the platform myself, I think I'd lean more towards the second group in this instance. Like, the learning curve is real for sure, but once you get past it, it's hard to operate without Trade Ideas again. And when I looked into TrendSpider, I came across this reviewer who complained that he could only find intraday charts and not long-term indicators. He also mentioned that being a beginner, he'd need at least like a month of help just to properly use the scanner. So yeah, I get that kind of frustration. TrendSpider has an insane amount of settings, and yeah, it can be pretty overwhelming fast. But what I found is that the platform actually anticipates that. They offer multiple live training sessions and tons of support. Also, the reviewer never mentioned using the long-term indicators, which are actually right there under the timeframes dropdown. So again, I'm guessing this is less about the tool and more about the familiarity with the tool, or access or something like that. And on the other side of the fence, one user highlighted how TrendSpider completely transformed his technical analysis. He explained how, in the past, he had to manually backtest everything in Python. With TrendSpider, he was finally able to backtest, plan, and monitor all in one place, and the insights alone justified the subscription. So yeah, that's like almost word for word how I would describe my own experience. Then there's the TipRanks user who got upset because he bought a subscription via the app and expected a 30-day money-back guarantee, only to have it rejected. So, I mean, yeah. And the reply from support basically said that the refund is offered on the website version only. Yeah, so I can see how that kind of thing would sting. But honestly, that's more of like an Apple App Store policy than specifically TipRanks. Worst case scenario, like, I mean, if that ever happened to me, I'd go through my credit card company. And let's be real, cases like that are like super rare if you just read the sign-on page or stay on the browser version while signing up for this. And meanwhile, quite a few people praise TipRanks because the data actually helped them improve their stock picks. One user literally doubled his money in less than 2 months after using TipRanks' tools. He had tried multiple paid services, and TipRanks was the only one that consistently added value over time. And from my own testing, yeah, I completely agree. Like, when used properly, TipRanks simply gives you information that most other stock analyzing tools miss entirely. So, after going through these reviews, I actually went into the features themselves that make these best stock analysis tools so powerful and differentiate them in the first place. And in some cases, they are very different from each other. So let me start with Trade Ideas, because out of these best stock analysis tools, I think this is the one I found myself returning to the most often. So their real-time stock race sounds a little gimmicky when you first hear the name, but after using it, I realized it's one of the pretty smartest visualizations that you can find in the entire space. Like, instead of having all this data buried in these endless spreadsheets, the data literally just shows itself on the stock race, which is like the top candidates racing each other in real time. So I started to use it to spot how early momentum shifts before they might show up on traditional heat maps and just see that progress. So like the moment one stock starts pulling ahead, I can quickly dive into the chart and confirm whether the move is valid. Compared to other stock analyzing tools that require multiple clicks just to filter, this is like watching a live leaderboard refresh itself every second. Then there's their market dashboards, which honestly feel kind of like a portable version of the entire platform. So on days when I'm not in front of my main trading rig, I run the dashboard in a standard browser and still get real-time scanners without needing the full desktop app. So that's a massive edge if you travel or you need access to your stock analysis tool while on the go, maybe not at your main computer, stuff like that. Then there's the elephant in the room here, and that's Holly, their main AI agent. Like, this is their AI virtual trade assistant, and it does a lot. So when I first heard that Trade Ideas had over 60 different algorithms feeding into Holly so that she could analyze things, I thought I was just like hearing things and that it was just marketing fluff and that it wouldn't actually help with anything. But after following the signals for a few weeks and not taking every single trade, but just looking at what she sent me and what information she sent it really became clear that Holly doesn't just throw like random alerts at you. She gives an entry, exit, stop, and more importantly, a clear intention behind every trade. So I actually watched her exit a trade early one day before the rest of the market crashed, and that alone paid for the subscription itself. And that's not even the end of it. There's the premium AI long-term strategy trades window, which shows which of her intraday signals could lead to multi-day runs. So it's like she's saying, yeah, the trade is closed, but you can keep an eye on it because the catalyst is still alive. And no other stock analyzing tool I've tried offers that kind of depth. TrendSpider, on the other hand, is a serious contender in the best stock analysis tools conversation here. So one of the biggest advantages that it has over its competitors is the smart watch lists. So these aren't just like basic watch lists, so I use them to automatically filter and refresh based on conditions that I set, and it happens automatically. So instead of manually updating a list of tickers, I have a dynamic list here that constantly scans the market for patterns that I care about and sends me what I need. So then there's the stock market maps. I'll be honest, like I didn't expect to love this feature, but once I used it, I realized why traders praise it so much. It's one of the fastest ways to spot outliers in the sector. So if one stock within the group is quietly gaining momentum while others lag, the maps point you in its direction with a literal visual highlight. Now, when I first started using TipRanks, I initially assumed that it was like just another news aggregator in the long list of stock analysis tools, but with their news score, I realized that it's actually deeper than that. So instead of simply showing the headlines, it actually assigns a sentiment score based on all the news related to a stock. So that means in one glance, I can tell if the overall sentiment is quietly shifting bullish or bearish just from that sentiment score. The crowd wisdom tab is also pretty underrated. It allows me to see what real retail investors are doing, not just the analysts, what other people are doing. So when everyone is funneling into the same name, it shows up there, and in many cases, I've avoided FOMO traps by double checking this tab. So it almost feels like a second layer of defense that sets TipRanks apart from most traditional stock analysis tools. But as with all best stock analysis tools, none of these three platforms are perfect. And since I've personally used all three of them, there are a few downsides that are worth mentioning here. So with Trade Ideas, I think the learning curve can really easily intimidate anyone who isn't familiar with scanners and all the tools. Like the interface is packed with options. It can be pretty complex. But honestly, it eventually started to seem more like a positive thing. So like, yeah, it's complex at first, but I'd rather deal with that in the long term than have a watered down scanner that doesn't give me what I need as I become better. TrendSpider, on the other hand, requires some time investment up front. Like the auto trend features are really powerful, but if you don't understand the logic behind them, you might misinterpret the lines. So for me, that was like solved after just going through their training and simply testing a few scenarios with it. And TipRanks does lean heavily on their data aggregation. So if you only want charting and nothing more, this might feel like it's too much information, but I actually found that visibility really works in this sentiment and insider activity that gives me a really good idea of what's going on in the market, and it gives me that extra edge that traditional stock analyzing tools just doesn't provide. Price-wise, One thing I realized is that none of these best stock analysis tools are really priced like cheap retail apps or even overpriced, really. Like, honestly, they shouldn't be cheap, and they shouldn't be like overpriced, but they definitely shouldn't be cheap. Like, Trade Ideas is definitely priced towards serious traders. TrendSpider sits somewhere like in the middle. TipRanks can feel surprisingly reasonable if you compare it to some similar platforms. But if you're more of like a casual investor, then yeah, the price might look a little high at first. But from my first-hand experience, each platform gives more value than you would normally get from free or low-end stock analyzing tools. If pricing becomes a deciding factor, just check the links in the description. I always keep them updated so that you can catch any promos, discounts, or free trials that are available. So after testing all three of these best stock analysis tools, I personally found that Trade Ideas really delivers the biggest edge in real-time decision making. But whichever one you choose, just make sure it actually fits the way you trade. So check the links in the description of this video to get started with a special discount and coupon.